Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome into another edition of the Steelers Q&A, coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, and X on a Saturday morning here at 8:10 a.m. I hope you're doing well. It's a special day for me. It's my birthday. I'm turning 30 today, and special occasions call for podcasting with all of you guys because you are a part of my family, the Steel Curtain Network family here. And I am just excited to be a part of this network, be a part of this, excuse me, this organization that we just love to talk Steeler football. We love our community. We thank each and every one of you that can join us live, that can come and listen to us on the audio side. We would not be here without you. So thank you to all who join in. If you come across this on YouTube, join us live. Ask us some Steelers questions here. It's just going to be me today. Little old Jeremy Betts here with you. And we're going to talk and break down a little bit of this Steelers-Packers matchup upcoming. It's going to be a fun one. And I say that with the thought process in mind that it's probably going to be tougher than it should be. And I think in a way, we we overlook that the Pittsburgh Steelers provide us with entertainment on a weekly basis, and sometimes we just want our team to give us an easy, fun, entertaining day. But it can also be fun to have your heart in your throat for 30 minutes to an hour. And I just think that when you're talking about a Pittsburgh Steelers team that is still so young, we forget that too, because we're wanting to see our young guys step up, and some of them have, and most of them have for the most part. They're still so young, and they're winning football games, and they're winning ugly. So there's room for improvement, but they're already winning while they're trying to figure things out, and that to me is the important thing about this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And you look at the struggles on offense specifically. You look at Kenny Pickett's troubles. You look at Matt Canada's kind of just lackluster design of an offense. And we start to see mistakes and, just developmental things that are not coming along as fast and as quickly as we would like them to, because the structure of the offense isn't where it needs to be. And you've got young players still trying to figure things out. I mentioned on the Let's Ride podcast on Friday. If you missed that, check it out. Jeff does a fantastic job going behind enemy lines with the Average Cheese podcast, talking the Packers game. And then the All Bets Are Off segment, my segment every week on Fridays with Jeff. We got into, the Steelers, and we got into how they're winning football games and some of the offensive issues that are holding them back. And early in the season, if you look back to it, there were bad routes being run. There were missing of open receivers, as not even seeing those guys. There were conceptual things that just were not panning out against defenses. And still there are some issues. Obviously, Matt Canada does not target the middle of the field. He doesn't run a lot of routes that way. There's a lot of crossing in front of the middle of the field where some of the routes end up, you're throwing a football to the numbers, outside the numbers on a middle crossing route or something along those lines, just because you're letting the play develop. And that's fine. But there are some deficiencies to the offense still. But the biggest difference from week 1 to week 10 here is that the Steelers' issues totally rely right now on them making the plays that are there, because I say this lightly, and I don't think he should come back as the offensive coordinator for this team, but Matt Canada is actually putting players in position to succeed. It's not going to be flashy, but there are players in position here to make plays. We saw it last week. George Pickens running a crosser, a shallow cross across the middle of the field. Kenny Pickett airmails him by 5 yards, just straight over his head. And we saw a comeback route for Deontay Johnson on the left side of the field. And Pickett misses him there. We see a missed touchdown opportunity. You had two open receivers. You had Connor Hayward across the middle, and then you had Allen Robinson. He chose to pass on the throw to Connor Hayward. Kenny Pickett did, and he threw it to Robinson and just skipped it. Just skipping rocks out there, a dirt ball. And you can't do that. And I get what he was trying to do. And you could even argue from Kenny Pickett's perspective that maybe he was expecting Allen Robinson to kind of turn that into a deep dig route into the end zone, as opposed to a post, which is what the route was run. And so some of the miscommunication things are still there. Some of them are. But for the most part, there are open receivers, there are open lanes, and Kenny Pickett has to hit open receivers. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren did a fantastic job of taking the lane that was there last week. That's why you got 166 yards on the ground against a top 5 rush defense. You've just got to take what's there with this offense. Now, is that sustainable enough to where, or is that good enough to where you keep the offensive coordinator and don't try to upgrade this offseason, like some of the rumors we're seeing this week? No. You got to make an upgrade if you can. If you can find an upgrade at the position of offensive coordinator, you do it. And that's just across the board. That's why you have an NFL draft. That's why you have free agency. Teams are always trying to upgrade at positions. You may be okay at a position. Mason Cole is okay at center, but that's not going to stop the Steelers from looking for his replacement this offseason, and it shouldn't. But for some reason in the coaching staff, for some reason, the coaches are not a part of this. If it's somewhat working, then we stick with it, because then we just trust Mike Tomlin to take you the rest of the way and get you the wins that you need as an organization, that is. That can't cut it anymore. We need high quality coaches in the building. I don't care if it's going to cost you a lot more money. And that's me as a fan, obviously, saying that it's not my money. So let me, excuse me, give that caveat that it's not my money, but still you're a multi-billion-dollar organization. You've gotten the cash to be able to hand out to some coaches that can improve your team, especially on the offensive side. Now, the Steelers may have an offensive renaissance down the stretch. It happened last year. Maybe we see a little bit more efficient, a little bit better version of that renaissance this year. However, there's still enough schematic issues where the structure of this offense just isn't good enough, and you could upgrade, so do it. That's how it needs to go. So I'm going to say that my favorite thought about this weekend's game is that you got a Packers team coming into town that's banged up. Why don't we as a team, if I'm Mike Tomlin, this is what I'm preaching. Let's go trounce these guys and put the fear of God into our division rivals over the next 2 weeks. Let's go out and smoke us some cheese. I mean, smoke that cheese. Get that cheddar cheese smoked. Burn it to a crisp. Go out there and put up 35 points. Go out there and put up a 33-16 win over really a Packers team that can be had. They just can be had. They're going to be missing their top cornerback, their top inside linebacker, potentially their top wide receiver in Christian Watson, and if he plays, he's going to be banged up anyway. You've got Jordan Love, a quarterback who is struggling, and for all of Kenny Pickett's struggles, Jordan Love is struggling even worse. That's something to be said. PFF grades play that out. EPA plays that out. The numbers play that out. Jordan Love more touchdown passes, but the ratings play that out. Kenny Pickett's been better, and Kenny Pickett's been better in the fourth quarter. Jordan Love has been a good third quarter quarterback. Neither quarterback is playing well in the first half. So those are some of the talking points here, but go out and just pound these guys. End them. I mean, Make them think about why they're playing this game. That's just what you want to see the Steelers team do. And if you do that, and you can do that, this pass rush should be able to absolutely destroy this passing game. TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. I'm throwing Keanu Benton in there too. He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Those four guys absolutely have to take control of this game on the defensive side of the ball. The Packers shouldn't score more than 20 points in this game. Easy. And it should be, the Packers shouldn't score more than 13 points in this game. There should be 6 sacks. There should be a ton of pressures, a bunch of QB hits, forcing them to run the football. That's how it should be played out. Will it play out that way? Probably not. The Pittsburgh Steelers do not like to play up to their competition. They like to play down to them. So we'll see how it is. I do want to bring in Jeremiah Yoder, who's made a couple comments here. First off, saying smoke that cheese, go Steelers, go. Absolutely. Let's smoke it. And we need to get a win, a big win, to change the morale of the fan base, of the team, heading into big time matchups against the division rivals upcoming on the Steelers schedule. And then Jeremiah also says it's as simple as this. Just win, baby. Let's go Steelers. Always love Jeremiah's positivity. Thank you for joining in the chat. If you have any questions, pop those in there. It is the Q&A after all. We will talk about those here when we get a chance as well. But we're going to take a quick break. On the flip side of the break, we're going to talk about why this could be a trap game for the Pittsburgh Steelers and what the Steelers need to do to avoid that trap. I've got 4 steps to avoiding the trap game this week, and they're pretty simple, but they are definitely necessary for not getting beat looking ahead to Cleveland, Cincinnati over the next 2 weeks, not getting beat by a Packers team that is coming in with nothing to lose and where everybody's picking the Steelers. All right. How to avoid that trap game is next here on the Steelers Q&A. If you're listening live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you are catching up on audio, quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back on the show. All right, welcome back to the Steelers Q&A. We're talking Steelers and Packers, and we're going to talk about why this could be a trap game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just mentioned in the front half of the show that I really wanted this Steelers team to go out and smoke the Packers, and they can. I think they have the ability to do that. It's execution. It's taking what's in front of you. I think they have the ability to do that. If they just make the plays that are there, they could put up 33 points. If the defense just makes the plays that are there, they could hold this team to 10 points. You got a 33-10 massacre in Pittsburgh, and you just win big. And Jeremiah Yoder said, just win, baby. How about just win big, baby, this week? That would be a lot of fun. Let's try that for once. But no, this could easily be a trap game for the Steelers. And I've been back and forth on this all week, seeing the Steelers lose 20-17 and in just horrific fashion and dropping to 5-4 before a big rematch against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. We've seen it before. We've seen this team look ahead, and it's not out of the question. In fact, a slow start on Sunday could start to lean me in the direction that, this could end up being one of those types of trap games that the Steelers find themselves in, where it's a bad opponent right before a heavyweight, and the bad opponent just jumps on you. So hopefully the Steelers have exercised some of those demons from the past. I'm not saying that they have. We've still seen it before, so we will see. But how to avoid the trap game, that's what I want to get into. And again, if you're listening live, we've got a few people listening live. If you have a question about this game or the Steelers in general, throw that in the comment section. I'll get to it. But in the meantime, let's talk about 4 reasons or 4 ways the Pittsburgh Steelers can avoid the trap game. The number one way is you got to get to Jordan Love. You just do what you do best on defense. Sack the quarterback, pressure the quarterback, force him into errancy. and just stymie this offense before it can even get going. I mean, don't even let it get going in the second half. Don't give them a free 10 points in the first half because and then they are a good second half team. Don't let them get going. Make them work for everything. Pressure, pressure, pressure. That is absolutely the best way to get in this team's head. Their offensive line has been bad. They're banged up. They're going to be starting maybe even a rotation of left tackles depending on who's playing better. Alex Highsmith, end that. Just end it. Just make them pay. Shut down the run game on first and second down, and then get after the quarterback. Go get him. He can be had. And if you get him, that is one way to avoid the trap game. Number 2, my second way to really avoid a trap game this week. Just run the dang ball. Just run it. Run it like you did last week. Give it to Najee. Tell him, hit the hole, get as many yards as you can. Straightforward. No dancing. And if something breaks, if you break a tackle, keep going. Just keep running until your legs can't move anymore. That's what you tell Najee. And then you say, Jalen, I want you to get out there, and I want you to just run as fast as you can in the direction of the play and see what happens. That's when he's at his best. And, man, he is good. 8 yards a carry last week on 11 carries. That is fantastic stuff. And I would just say this about the Steelers running back attack. If they both are on point, they can be one of the best tandems in the league. They really can. And with Broderick Jones on the right tackle spot, you have improved the overall strength and physicality of this offensive line. And I think that is huge. That was huge last week against a rough and tumble Titans bunch up front. This is not a bad Packers defense. They're not coordinated very well. They have players, though, up front, and they've played really good against the run the last couple of weeks, although on the season as a whole, they've been underwhelming in that regard. You still have a team that has some players. Rashawn Gary can give you problems off the edge. Neutralize him with a running game. I mean, do it. Go out there and run the football and do so successfully. Run behind your big dogs. For all the hate we've thrown Dan Moore Jr. this year, he's a good run blocker. Him and Isaac Seumalo on that left side are pretty good. Now, were Broderick Jones and Isaac Seumalo on the left side better? Yes, they were. Are Broderick Jones and James Daniels together on the right side better than James Daniels and Chuks Okorafor? Absolutely. Absolutely. What the Steelers did was they decided, well, we're just going to play our 5 best offensive linemen. And we're going to play them where they can be strongest. And that's why you didn't see the switch from Dan Moore Jr. to Broderick Jones at left tackle. That's why you're seeing Jones at right tackle. And that's fine. Just go out there and do what you can. And if Broderick Jones mauls people all year at right tackle, that's fantastic. And then you move him over to left tackle next year like nothing ever happened, and you go get a right tackle, and you're fine. That's fantastic. Go for it. So, sack the quarterback, run the football. And then this is the big one here, because what happens to favorites in potential trap game scenarios is you let them make a few plays, let them hang around, and then they beat you late. And this Packers team can do that. So you've got to protect the football and take the ball away on defense. If the Steelers win the turnover margin in this game, if they win the turnover battle in this game, my prediction is that they will win. If they lose the turnover battle, it's going to be a battle to win this game, because you're giving the Packers extra chances. You're giving them some hope when you should be the better team, when you should have it more put together. And that is how you lose trap games. That is how you lose to inferior opponents before a big game the next week. The Steelers have to avoid that. Take the football away from your opponent. And Kenny Pickett, be smart. Nothing crazy. Take the plays that are in front of you. That's what you got to do at this point in your career. to improve, just take the plays that are in front of you. Don't always try to hit the big play. And I think if you do that this week against the Packers defense, then you can avoid that trap game. Then you can avoid falling trap to the pack. You can avoid that if you protect the football. So, I mean, that is absolutely something we have to do. So before I get to my fourth point, I did want to bring up another comment from Jeremiah, because we gotta love this. Love the Steelers. I've loved them since 1976. I haven't been around that long, Jeremiah. I just turned 30 today. So I've been a fan of the team since probably about 2000. I mean, that's really when I really started watching football as a 7-8-year-old kid. The 2000s time frame, the Slash and Maddox era were to start those are my first memories of watching the Steelers. But mostly I just watched football. Mostly I just watched football games and and whatever was on. We lived in North Dakota, so we didn't get the Steelers game on our on-air static TV. So I didn't get to watch a lot of Steelers growing up, or excuse me, early on, at 7-8 years old. But I did get to watch football, and I remember, I remember Patriots dynasty getting started. I remember those early Super Bowls for them. I remember the Buccaneers and the Raiders, and 2002. I remember a lot of those big games. I remember this is a fun story and kind of funny because I married a Browns fan. So that we deal with that. We'll have our fun time next week, drawing the line down the middle of the house and going at each other for Steelers Browns next week. That'll be fun. But no, my first real game where I had a sincere rooting interest, it was Browns and Bengals in a game, and I wanted the Browns to win so bad. I don't know what it was, just 8-year-old me who absolutely was all of a sudden behind a football team. And in that game, I really just wanted the Browns to win. I just picked them. They were going to be my team that game, and they lost. It was a heartbreaker. I can't remember the exact game it was. I'd have to go back and look that up. I should, honestly, to figure out what game exactly was that first game that I really got into. And I mean, I was a kid. I was emotionally involved. I cried when the Browns lost. Oh, I cried when the Browns lost to the Bengals. It was so sad. And now when the Browns lose to the Bengals, I'm like, you got it. That's fine. Bengals lose to the Browns. Good. Whoever can lose this game, we'll take it. That was my first football memory. Steelers fan for life, though. Dad's from Pittsburgh. Now that after I got introduced to Pittsburgh Steelers football, I was hooked. 2004, 2005, rookie Ben Roethlisberger coming in and setting up that dynasty, setting up decades now of success for the Steelers. That's where I'm at. And so absolutely. And then he says, loving your Buckeyes hat. Jeremiah does. Go Steelers, go Buckeyes. Absolutely, go Buckeyes. My wife converted me into a Buckeyes fan. I watched a lot of college football. Didn't really have a big time team that I always rooted for. Just watched college football because I like football. I'm a big time Buckeyes fan now. Love those Buckeyes. Hopefully they can win this week. All right. My fourth and final way that the Steelers can avoid the trap game this week, and that is get George Pickens the football. All right. I've got run the ball. I've got sack the quarterback. I've got take the ball away. Sacking the quarterback and taking the ball away, that's your bread and butter on defense. You have to do those things if you're going to win, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not going to win by just shutting teams down. So take the ball away, sack the quarterback on defense. Run the ball on offense, and get the ball to George Pickens. And what I mean by that is don't just throw him 10 footballs just because he's a wide receiver on this team. Just because he happens to be the open receiver maybe on a play. Or worse yet, just because Deontay Johnson's not open, so you've got to look somewhere else to throw the football. It should be the opposite. All right? George Pickens should be getting the Deontay Johnson target share. And he should be getting the Deontay Johnson schematic. So they're different players. So let me clarify this. I'm not saying that you make George Pickens run Deontay Johnson like routes. I'm not saying you use him the same way. What I'm saying is you plan to get him the football. You scheme him up as your wide receiver one. The Steelers can be an okay offense with Deontay Johnson schemed up as their wide receiver one. They could be a good offense if they scheme up George Pickens as their wide receiver one. They really could. The explosiveness rates would go up. The demoralization of a defense would take an uptick because he can do that. He can beat you even when he's covered. So to me, it's just offensive malpractice. It's a fireable offense alone to be scheming up Deontay Johnson as your wide receiver one instead of George Pickens. Anywhere else in this league, except for maybe Atlanta, where Arthur Smith seems to be as I can't think of the word I'm trying to. He seems to be as opposed to feeding his superstars as Matt Canada is. Feed your dang superstars, and George Pickens can be a superstar for this team if you feed him that way. Get him the football. I know there's been a lot of talk about him having a fit this week, and support your team. Be a good teammate, George Pickens. That's my only talk about that. But outside of that, no, he should be upset. This guy should be mad that he's not getting the football and not being schemed up as the wide receiver one. That should be his big complaint. It's not that I'm not getting passes thrown my way. He's getting passes thrown his way. 5 to 10 targets a game is what he's getting. Something in that range. But that's just as a byproduct of the offense, not as the main focus of the offense, and that's exactly what it should be. He absolutely should be ticked that he is not being treated as the wide receiver one on this team. That's just the way it should be. So I know a lot of people dogging him for the kind of being a little bit of a baby, but that's okay. In my opinion, if you don't care enough to get upset when you're not getting the football, then, as Mike Tomlin would say, I'd rather say whoa than sick 'em. This is absolutely one of those cases. I'd say, whoa, George, okay, listen, I get it. I get you frustrated. I get you want the football. We're going to get you the football. I'm going to talk to Matt because this is unacceptable. This is what Coach T should be doing. I'm going to talk to Matt because this is unacceptable that he is not scheming you up as a wide receiver one. I love DJ, but you should be the wide receiver one. And that needs to be maybe not in those exact terms. You don't dog somebody else when you're talking to another player. But you go talk to Matt Cannon and you say, I don't care what you have to do this week. I want you to scheme George Pickens the football. Do it. That's how you avoid the trap game this week. So, in recap, you sack the quarterback. Number 2, you run the football. Number 3, you win the turnover battle and you protect the football. And then number 4, you get your best player the football. You get George Pickens the football. That's how you avoid the trap game this week if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's how you go into Cleveland in week 11 with a 6-3 record, ready to get to 7-3 against a division rival that you have absolutely owned before a massive, massive game against the rising Bengals in Cincinnati. And if the Steelers win that game, this team's for real. If they lose to the Packers, you might be starting a downward spiral where you go into Cleveland, you already beat them once. Now you're in their building. They want revenge. They're going to be healthy. That defense is playing really well. Don't lose to Green Bay and then get beat by Cleveland because you're staring yourself in the face of a 3-game losing streak. You're looking at instead of being 6-4, 7-3 in by the time you get to Cincinnati, you're looking at 5-5 and a chance to be under 500 after that game. And that's not going to go well for your playoff hopes in the AFC. You've got to win this Packers game. This is a linchpin point for the Steelers this season because you've got too many big games coming up to afford to lose this one. You got to win this one against the Packers. and set yourself up at 6-3 for a ride in through the AFC North, and hopefully you pick up 1 or 2 wins the next couple weeks. And then you're sitting pretty heading into the back stretch of the season after Thanksgiving and all that. Ready for December ball when the Steelers play their best. Let's get rolling. All right, that is going to do it for me today. Mark Malone joins in. Thank you so much for joining in. He says, I'll pull it up real quick. Get Pickens the ball. No reason to pass the ball to Clayton Johnson most of the time. I mean, Johnson's good. I'll give him that. He's a good route runner. He gets the ball in his hands. He has his issues, but George Pickens is just better. That's just the simple facts. So get him the football. And then Jeremiah says it was a treat and a pleasure watching that defense, Greenwood, Green, and Holmes and White. Yes, I'm sure it was. When you get a chance to watch those guys live, I'm sure, or when you get a chance to watch those guys as it's happening, that has to be so fantastic. So I appreciate you guys coming on. Signing off here on the Steelers Q&A. We'll be back next week, and it'll be another Saturday morning show because the Steelers play on Sunday again next week, and that is fine. I hope you can join me then. Until then, that's going to do it for me here on the Steelers Q&A. Be sure to stay tuned to the Steel Curtain Network for all of your Steelers insights throughout the remainder of the weekend and the big game coming up. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.